Why is it so important for you to prioritize resting in early postpartum and gradually getting back to doing things that you were doing before for your pelvic floor and your core? If you're new here, my name's Jamila. I'm a pelvic floor occupational therapist, pre and postnatal exercise specialist, and a diastasis recti expert. I'm also a mom of 3, so I have had to take this advice and information myself, which is not always easy. In the previous video, I stressed the importance of resting and prioritizing not going back to doing your day-to-day things in early postpartum, and instead really prioritizing resting in and around the bed those first 2 weeks, and then gradually progressing to doing more, but not everything that you were doing pre-pregnancy or pre-birth right after you have your baby. And this is because your pelvic floor needs time to heal, regardless of how you had your baby. Whether you had a C-section or vaginal delivery, your pelvic floor was still highly impacted throughout your pregnancy, because during pregnancy, there's an increased pressure down into the pelvic floor. Also, a ton of strain on your core, not to mention the massive wound where your placenta and your baby just came out of, which requires rest time and healing. When we start doing too much too soon postpartum, we pose an extreme risk for number 1, infection, number 2, for pelvic floor issues to either get worse if you potentially have undiagnosed pelvic floor issues, or this could be an opportunity for your body to create some pelvic floor issues due to doing too much too soon. And in the same breath, we don't want you to necessarily be on bed rest unless, of course, your provider has told you that you have to be on bed rest for a certain amount of weeks postpartum. Instead, we want to take a slow, gradual progression back. So this is what I usually recommend. The first 2 weeks to be in and around the bed and starting to practice diaphragmatic breathing and connecting to the pelvic floor and the core. Then weeks 3 and 4, we gradually progress a little bit more around the bed, around the couch. But each week, the goal is that you are gradually progressing while simultaneously connecting to those pelvic floor and core muscles while you are resting. Again, this is not bed rest, but this is incorporating those gentle pelvic floor movements and core connections into your resting time. So this can be an active resting phase. So while getting up and walking at 2 weeks postpartum is not recommended, once you start progressing and start getting those muscles strengthened and start connecting to the muscles that are required, your core and your pelvic floor muscles, to support you, then you will have the strength when you get to 6 weeks postpartum to start doing more and more. Again, this is not bed rest. You are not just like laying in the bed for 6 weeks, but this is a gradual, safe progression to doing more to make sure that your pelvic floor and your core are able to support you appropriately. And so you don't end up with pelvic floor and core issues later on, because nobody wants that. I have a 6-week early postpartum guide linked in my stanstore for you. This is exactly why I created it, to help moms to have the appropriate support and an outline, a framework for those first 6 weeks of healing postpartum.